My wife said, dinners alone with my coworker are completely harmless. I said, okay. Then she lost her mind when I did the same. Megan and I had been married for 4 years when she started taking standing dinners with a coworker named Jared. The first one she announced like she was reading the weather. I'm grabbing dinner with Jared on Thursdays. We're slammed on the Whitfield account, and it's easier to hash it out over food. I asked whether the whole team was going. Just us two. He's the only other person there who actually cares about this project. I kept my voice level. Dinner? The two of you? Every single week? Yes, and before you make it weird, it is completely harmless. We are colleagues. Grow up a little. She framed it like the problem started and ended with me. The Thursday dinners dug in fast. Megan began wearing nicer clothes on those days, touching up her makeup before she left. She rolled in later every week, glowing and overflowing with Jared. Jared says I'm wasted in my current role. Jared took us to this gorgeous little place down by the water. Jared really listens when I talk, which is a refreshing change around here. I mentioned that hearing another man's name 12 times in one recap landed a little rough. You don't get to police who I share a meal with. This is called networking. Do you want me stuck in the same dead-end job forever? One of those Thursdays fell on my birthday. I asked if she could push it a day. Jared already booked the table. I'll make it up to you this weekend. Don't be so insecure about it. So I said, okay. 2 weeks later, she skipped my cousin's engagement party because Jared had floor seats to a game, and it would look bad to turn the boss's golden boy down. She rolled in long after the party ended, smelling like a steakhouse she had always sworn she hated. When I asked how the networking had gone, she kissed my cheek and told me I worried far too much. So I stopped asking. Then I thought about Nina. Nina sat 2 desks down from me, married with 2 kids, the type of coworker who keeps a candy drawer and asks about your weekend like she actually wants the answer. We had a report due, so I asked if she wanted to knock it out over dinner on Tuesday. Sure, my husband can handle bedtime for once. Just pick somewhere with good fries. That became my Tuesday. Our dinners were the least scandalous events on the planet. Nina showed me 400 photos of her toddler in a dinosaur costume. We split every check straight down the middle. Her husband texted twice each time asking where the diaper cream lived. We were always home by 8. One Tuesday, Nina spent the entire meal helping me pick out a birthday gift for Megan, which felt like a joke only I was in on. I started mentioning Nina to Megan in the exact breezy way she had been mentioning Jared to me. Grabbing dinner with Nina from work tonight. Nina found this killer burger spot near the office. Nina laughs at my jokes, which is a refreshing change around here. It took 2 weeks for Megan to crack. She walked in while I was lacing up my shoes by the front door for a Tuesday. Who exactly is Nina? A coworker. We have a report. You are going to dinner, alone, with some woman. Just us two, I said. She's the only other person who cares about the report. It's completely harmless. Megan's voice climbed a full octave. That is not the same thing, and you know it perfectly well. How is it different? I asked. Yours is networking, mine is networking. Yours is harmless, mine is harmless. You wrote the rule yourself. I just read it back. She demanded I cancel the Tuesdays for good. Instead, I made her an offer. I cancel my harmless dinner the same night you cancel yours. We both walk away at the same moment. Fair is fair. Megan went very still. She did not say yes, and she very pointedly did not say no. It is not that simple. Jared and I are right in the middle of something important. I'm sure whatever you're in the middle of is completely harmless, I said. She raised it again the next morning, and the morning after that, always circling the runway, never once landing the single sentence that would have grounded both dinners in a heartbeat. All she had to do was say she would stop seeing Jared too. The words never came. Instead, she tried guilt. After 4 years, you would really do this to us over a few work dinners? When guilt didn't work, Megan went recruiting. I found out because my cousin Teddy called on a Wednesday afternoon, his voice careful the way people get when they think they are about to deliver bad news. Megan had told him I was going on weekly dates with some woman from my office and that she was scared for the marriage. This was the same Teddy whose engagement party she had skipped for Jared's floor seats. She called the guy she blew off to come fight her battle for her. I took a breath and told Teddy everything from the beginning. The Thursday dinners, the birthday, the engagement party, the floor seats, the Nina experiment, the deal Megan wouldn't take. He went quiet on the other end. Not confused quiet, the kind where someone is putting pieces together and not liking the picture. So she ditched my party for floor seats with this guy, and now she's calling me to fight her battles? That's bold, man. That is genuinely bold. Then, I'm not going to lie, I was hurt when she didn't come. My fiance noticed. We just didn't say anything because we figured you had enough on your plate. I told him I was sorry about that, and I meant it. Don't apologize for something she did, Teddy said. You keep doing what you're doing. I got your back on this one. Megan also reached out to Kendall, a mutual friend, with a very specific version of events. I was retaliating against her, using some woman to hurt her, a husband who couldn't handle his wife having a career. Kendall texted me the next day, and I could tell she was trying to be careful about it. I gave her the same respect back. No yelling, no trashing Megan, just the timeline, slow and clear. I started with the birthday Megan skipped because Jared booked a table, the engagement party, the exact words she used every time I raised a concern. Then I pulled up my phone and read the old texts out loud, the grow up a little text, the don't be so insecure text, the one where she told me I worried far too much. I read them word for word while Kendall listened. When I finished, she went quiet for a few seconds. Her tone changed. She really said grow up? About weekly dinners alone with a guy? She didn't declare a side. She just stopped calling me to check in on Megan's behalf. The pressure disappeared. Megan noticed fast. A couple of days later, she came at me in the front room, jaw set, arms crossed, barely letting me close the fridge before she started. You turned Kendall against me. You are poisoning everyone around us. I leaned against the counter and kept my voice even. I told her the same story you told her. The only difference is I included the parts you left out. That one landed. I could see it in the way her mouth tightened and her eyes went glassy for half a second before the anger rushed back in. She slammed a cabinet door hard enough to rattle the glasses inside. I need space, she said, grabbed her keys, and walked out the front door without telling me where she was going. It was a Thursday. I sat down at the dining table and stared at the spot where we used to eat breakfast on weekends before any of this started, and something inside me shifted in a way I can't really describe. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't trying to prove a point with the Tuesday dinners. I was sitting in my own house on a Thursday Thursday night while my wife was out with a man she couldn't give up, asking myself a question I had been running from for weeks. Is my marriage already over and Megan just hasn't told me yet? The thought sat in my chest like a rock. I texted my oldest friend Javier, "Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow morning? I need to talk." He wrote back in under a minute. "Name the place. I'll be there." The next morning, I sat across from Javier at a coffee shop near my office and told him everything from the beginning. He listened without interrupting, just held his coffee and let me talk until I ran out of words. When I finally stopped, he set his mug down and looked at me. "Brother, the dinners aren't the problem. The problem is she can't stop. You gave her the easiest out in the world. Cancel yours, I cancel mine. And she couldn't do it. That's the part you need to sit with." I rubbed my face with both hands and stared at the table. I knew he was right. I had known it for a while, probably since the night Megan couldn't say yes and couldn't say no, and just stood there telling me it wasn't that simple. But knowing something is true and being ready to deal with what it means are two very different things. The following Tuesday, I showed up to dinner with Nina at our usual spot, a little place near the office with good fries and booths where you could actually hear each other talk. We ordered what we always ordered, and Nina was halfway through a story about her toddler putting a shoe in the toilet when she stopped mid-sentence and set her fork down. "Hey, random, but Ahmed ran into your wife at that Italian place on the waterfront last Thursday. He said she was there with some guy, and they were not exactly sitting on opposite sides of the table. She said it the way you say something when you've been carrying it for a few days and finally decided it's heavier than you want to hold alone." I put my burger down. "What do you mean they weren't on opposite sides of the table?" Nina looked at her plate for a second, then back at me. She was picking her words. "He said the guy had his hand on her back the whole time they were walking out. Ahmed didn't want to start anything, so he told me, and I sat on it for a few days. But you should probably know." My chest went tight. Not the kind where you can't breathe, more the kind where everything inside you pulls toward the center and holds still, like your body is bracing for something your brain already figured out. I asked Nina to describe the restaurant. She told me it was that Italian place right on the water, the one with the patio and the string lights. The second she said it, I knew exactly which place she meant. It was the same spot Megan had raved about months ago, the gorgeous little place down by the water, the one she said Jared had found. She had talked about it like it was some kind of magical discovery, a hidden gem, and at the time I just nodded and swallowed the knot in my throat. I thanked Nina. She didn't have to tell me, and Ahmed didn't have to tell her. I finished dinner early, paid my half, and drove home in silence, letting every Thursday from the last few months replay. The makeup, the new clothes, the glow she came home with, the way she said Jared's name like it tasted good. Megan was already asleep when I got in. I went to the dining room, opened my laptop, and pulled up our credit card statement. I scrolled back through the charges looking for Thursdays. There they were. Charges at the Italian place going back 3 months. Every single Thursday, like clockwork. But the amounts were wrong. Not split check amount. When Nina and I went to dinner, our checks came out to 15, maybe 20 bucks each after tip. These were different. Single tab totals, $80, $110, $140. Full bottles of wine, appetizers, entrees, desserts. Someone was paying for both of them every time. And it was not Megan's card on the alternating weeks. Jared was covering those. They were taking turns. This was not what a business dinner looked like. This was what a date looked like. I slept on the couch and told Megan in the morning I'd fallen asleep watching something on my phone, which she accepted without question because she was in a rush to get to work. After she left, I called Teddy. "I need you to be honest about what you saw at your engagement party when Megan wasn't there. Did anyone mention seeing her that night?" Teddy paused. Not a confused pause. The pause of someone deciding whether to open a door they've been standing in front of for a while. "My fiancé saw Megan's car at that Italian place when she drove past around 9. She didn't want to bring it up because she figured you already knew." I did not know. The night of Teddy's engagement party, the night Megan told me she was at a game with Jared because it would look bad to turn the boss's golden boy down, she was at the Italian place, their spot. She hadn't been at any game. She had been sitting across from Jared at a table with a full bottle of wine and a single tab, wearing the outfit she picked out special, while I stood at my cousin's party making excuses for why my wife wasn't there. That night I sat at the dining table with a notebook and wrote everything down. Dates, credit card charges, her exact words from each excuse. Every time she called me insecure. Every time she said harmless. Every time she chose Jared over something that mattered to me. Ahmed's account. Teddy's fiance's account. The deal she wouldn't take. I put it all in order, neat and calm, like building a timeline for a case. I wasn't reacting anymore. I wasn't mirroring. I was building something. And for the first time in months, my hands were steady. For 1 full week, I said nothing. Not a word about the credit card statements. Not a word about Ahmed. Not a word about Teddy's fiancé and the car parked at the Italian place the night of the engagement party. I just put the notebook in the back of my sock drawer and lived like a man who had nothing on his mind. I went to work. I came home. I asked Megan how her day was and listened when she answered. On Wednesday, I got home before her and made dinner. Just chicken and rice and a salad. The kind of meal we used to throw together when we were first married and still figuring out how a shared space worked with 2 people in it. When Megan walked in and saw the table set and food already plated, she stopped in the doorway like she was waiting for the catch. But there was no catch. I pulled her chair out and asked about her day, and she told me about a meeting that ran long and a printer that jammed 3 times. Normal stuff, small stuff, the kind we used to talk about before every conversation turned into a chess game. By the time we were cleaning up, she was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. She dried the last plate and put it away, and then she turned to me, her whole face soft and open, like a window someone had finally pushed up after leaving it shut all winter. "See? This is what it's like when you're not being weird about everything. We're fine. We've always been fine." She kissed me on the forehead, and I stood there and let her. And I didn't say a single thing about the fact that she had just rewritten 3 months of history in 2 sentences. Then, almost like an afterthought, she mentioned that Thursday's dinner with Jared got moved to a new place because the Italian spot was booked, their regular spot. I let that sit in my chest for a second, and then I smiled. "That's nice. Have fun." Megan looked at me a beat too long, eyes moving across my face like she was reading something in small print, trying to figure out if the calm was real. I just kept smiling. She decided to take the win. Thursday came, and Megan left the house around 6:30 in a new silky blouse I had never never seen before, and heels she definitely had not worn to work that morning. I saw her leave in flats and a cardigan. She half waved from the hallway and said she wouldn't be late. I waited 20 minutes, then texted Javier. He was at my door in 30, which meant he probably broke at least 2 traffic laws getting there. I sat him down at the dining table and laid everything out. The credit card statements with every Thursday charge highlighted in yellow. The notebook with Megan's exact words matched to dates, Teddy's fiancé, and the car parked at the Italian place the night of the engagement party. Ahmed's account of the hand on Megan's back walking out of the restaurant. Javier read through it without rushing, without performing a reaction. When he got to the credit card charges, he stopped and ran his finger down the column of totals. $80, $110, $140, single tabs, full bottles of wine. He looked up at me. You're not crazy, and you're not wrong. So what do you want to do with this? I had been thinking about that question for days. I want her to tell me the truth one time, just once, without me having to drag it out of her. Javier nodded slowly, like he expected that answer, but needed to hear me say it. And if she won't, I took a long breath. Then I have my answer anyway. We sat with that for a while. He just sat there with me on a Thursday night while my wife was out with another man at a new restaurant because their usual place was booked. The next morning, Megan was already up when I came downstairs, humming some song from the radio, moving around the counter with this easy, loose energy like she didn't have a care in the world. She looked up and her face broke into a real smile. Hey, do you want to do something fun this weekend? Maybe that brunch place we used to love? The one with the French toast that's like stupid good? Yeah, I said. That sounds great. She looked so genuinely happy. I'll make a reservation. It'll be like it used to be. And for a second, standing there with morning light coming through the window and my wife smiling at me like I was the only person in the room, it did feel like it used to be. The woman I married. The one who laughed too loud at her own jokes and stole the covers and cried at dog videos and made me feel like the luckiest guy in any room we walked into together. That was the version of Megan standing in front of me. And that is what made it worse. This warmth, this ease. She only showed up after a Thursday with Jared. I had been watching the pattern for weeks and it never broke. A good Thursday meant a good Friday, a sweet weekend. The better her Thursday went, the nicer she was to me. I was getting the leftovers. She came home full and I got the scraps and was supposed to be grateful, supposed to say, see, we're fine. We've always been fine. I poured my coffee and told her brunch sounded perfect. It would be perfect. It would also be the last time I stayed quiet. Saturday brunch started exactly the way Megan wanted it to. She was glowing again and laughing and leaning across the table, showing me something on her phone when a text notification slid down from the top of her screen and I saw it before she did. The preview read, last night was perfect. Same time Thursday? From Jared. Megan's hand moved fast. She flipped the phone face down and kept talking like nothing had happened. Like the words hadn't just sat there on the screen between us for 2 full seconds. I set my fork down. Last night was perfect, I said. Megan's whole face froze. What? That's what the text said from Jared. Last night was perfect. Same time Thursday. She started reaching for words. That's about the project. We finally cracked the Whitfield numbers and he was just Megan. I kept my voice low and level. I have the credit card statements. Full bottles of wine every Thursday, same restaurant for 3 months. 1 tab, not 2. Jared's paying. You changed your clothes before you left last Thursday. You wore heels you didn't wear to work. Her eyes went wide. You've been spying on me? I've been paying attention. There's a difference. Ahmed saw Jared's hand on your back walking out of the restaurant. Teddy's fiancé saw your car parked there the night you told me you were at the game. You skipped my birthday for a man who texted you that last night was perfect. I said each sentence the same way, calm and clear and unhurried, and each one landed in the silence between us and stayed there. Megan opened her mouth and closed it 3 times, like she was testing words in her head and rejecting everyone before it could reach the air. Then she tried one last pivot. You did this. You and your little Tuesday dinners. You pushed me away, and you made me feel like I couldn't even have a friend without being accused of something. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened the note I had been keeping, the one with every date and every quote and every moment she chose Jared over us. I did not raise my voice. January 12th, you said grow up a little. February 9th, you called me insecure for asking you to move one dinner so we could celebrate my birthday together. February 23rd, you skipped Teddy's engagement party for floor seats with Jared. March 5th, you told me I worried far too much. March 19th, you demanded I stop seeing Nina while refusing to stop seeing Jared. You wrote every one of these rules. I just kept score. Megan was crying, not loud, not dramatic, just tears running down her face and landing on the tablecloth while the brunch crowd moved around us like we weren't even there. It wasn't what you think, she said, and her voice was so small it barely made it across the table. It started as work. It really did. I believe that, I said. But you need to tell me what it turned into. You owe me one honest sentence after 4 years. The silence stretched so long I could hear the couple 2 tables over arguing about whether to get mimosas or Bloody Marys. Megan wiped her face with the back of her hand. She looked down at the table. She took a breath that shook on the way in and worse on the way out. Then, very quietly, I don't know what it is, but I know it's not nothing. I stood up. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I married, this woman I built 4 years with, sitting across from me with mascara on her fingers, and the truth finally sitting between us like something neither of us could put back in the box. That's the first true thing you've said to me in months, I said, and it's the one thing I really wish you hadn't. I walked to the front, paid the check, and left the restaurant. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't look back through the window. I drove straight to Javier's apartment and sat on his couch without speaking for 10 minutes. He handed me coffee and waited. Finally, I said, she said it's not nothing. Javier nodded. So now you know. Yeah, now I know. I called a lawyer on Monday. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Megan texted me 14 times that weekend. I read every one. When I was ready, I sent back one line. I'm not going to fight about this anymore. I'm going to make a decision that respects both of us. I hope you do the same. That night, I took my ring off and set it on the nightstand.